everybody, and we are live. It is June the 17th, and we have got the really exciting show for you today. We're going to be talking about managed budgets, and we talked a bit about that last week, and we're going to continue on the theme, and we're with Fin, formerly known as Intercom, an amazing company. And if you don't know them, you'll be fascinated to find out what they do. And if you do know them, you'll know them, how amazing they are. And we're going to be talking about what they're doing. You're going to love this show today. So wherever you are in the world, let us know, write in the comments box, tell us what your news is, what's going on in your world. We are live, as I said. Today is the penultimate episode of our season. We're back again next week when we're going to be talking about behind the scenes, what's going on actually with the show, and we got some fascinating stories we're going to share with you next week. So you know how it works. Everybody, join the conversation, write in the comments box, tell us what's going on in your world, where you are, what's happening in your world. We are super excited to always hear from you, our good friends in this wonderful industry. We are live right now on LinkedIn, we are live on YouTube, and we're also available to hear as a podcast on Spotify. So that's where we are. We also have CPE codes. So you might want to get your CPE codes from ERC, from SHRM, from HRCI, and we have those codes, and many thanks to our good friends at Worldwide ERC and our good friends at Rocket Mortgage. So these are the codes if you want to get them. And obviously we all know how important your continuing professional education is to you, and you're getting your credits. So there they are. If you want your credits, your HRCI credits, your SHRM credits, or your Worldwide ERC, GMS or CRP credits, there they are. So next week, as I said, we've got our season finale. But what about last week? Well, in the last 7 days, there's been lots of breaking news. We've got some of our own, which I'm going to come on to. But let's find out what's been going on in the wonderful world of global mobility in the last 7 days. So let's just run that video and see exactly what's been going on. So there we have it. Congratulations to everybody who's got a new job. Congratulations to everyone who's been promoted. And if you're looking for a job or you want to share your news, then do reach out to us. There's loads of great jobs out there. And indeed, if you've got news you want to share, let us know and we'll do whatever we can to promote it. But as I hinted, we've got some news of our own. Benivo has got, it's just groundbreaking news, and I'm so excited. We have backstage Nitsan Udan, CEO of Benivo, who's going to share just a little bit about what the news is. So we've got a little bit of fun video that I just want to show you, and tell us what you think. So here we go as we reveal just a little bit of our news. Save your seat, Nitsan. What have you done to me with that video? The Friedmanator. What have you done to me?
The Freedominator. Brian is back, right? Definitely, Brian is back, and we're so happy to have you back.
And anyway, I know that there's a little bit of sort of, reveal bit by bit. The tease is on, but just tell us, Nitsan, tell us what you can about MI2, Mobility Intelligence 2.
Thank you, Brian. This is the biggest product launch of the year. We've never done something so exciting, something so big, and something that will change so much about how we work. We've all been able to see the revolution that AI has brought to everywhere where we look at the workplace. We've introduced that to mobility a year ago with Mobility Intelligence, which was the first platform to come as a purpose mobility AI solution. It delivers instant immigration assessment. It delivers opportunities for cost savings on tax optimization, answer 90% of employees' questions, and this is just the beginning, right? MI2 is taking it not a step forward, but an entire different league of its own in terms of the ability to move from answers into actions, in order to all of us to have a team of agents who are working to support us, to help us be more strategic as mobility leaders, to be able to take on more responsibility, to engage with the business and with our stakeholders in ways we couldn't engage before. And all of that, well, typing or talking to our screen, right? We don't need anything. We don't need any technical skills. We don't need to be an IT expert. We need to be mobility experts. And what we are going to introduce in MI2 is how that experience is changing completely and becoming part of the flow of work. So definitely join us. We're looking forward. But until then, there are a few weeks. We would love to hear from people. What is their favorite sequel? I mean, mine is Terminator 2. We have, more surprises coming. Want to hear what's your favorite ones?
Yeah, I mean, it is. So tell us, what was your favorite sequel? Put your comments. I'll go for Godfather 2, but let's see what people put out there. I have heard, I've heard others talk about the Toy Stories. I've heard them talk about Shrek. There's so many great sequels, and that's a bit of fun. What's your favorite sequel? I must say, I think I said my favorite sequel, My Children. So just, but in all seriousness, I mean, what is
must
coming?
Be the Emma then, right?
Absolutely. I'll shout out to my kids at Emma and Jonathan on the show. My sequel. But actually going back to the plot. I mean, what we're talking about here is it's just beyond a game changer, because it's moving, as you said, from technology that answers questions to technology that does stuff. And the way that is going to change mobility is just groundbreaking. Now, when is actually the release going to be? What's the big date that people should be looking out for?
So we're going to do a few reveal sessions in mid-July. The data on the leaks there. There are a few time zones. They're going to be corporate-only events, but they're going to be a wow experience. This is not another webinar or another Zoom Tallies preparing loads of surprises. This is going to be just the experience. There will be a wow experience. But more than that, it's, of course, what it's about. It's not just the wrapping, it's also what's inside it. So yeah, mid-July, there are a few dates to support different time zones, all the way from Australia to India, Europe, UK, East Coast, West Coast. We're going to wake up at any time at night needed in order to help mobility see what's coming.
I'm just so excited. I mean, this is going to be just incredible. Are there any more clues you can give us, or are you going to remain tight? On behalf of the audience, I'm going to see if I can get you to blab something out, but I may not have much. But
maybe in one of the upcoming shows, right? We'll keep talking about that. We'll keep building the vibe, but definitely.
This is seriously exciting. Congratulations to you. And I know lots of people have been working. Tell us a bit about the effort that's been going into building this.
It requires not only the best people, but also the best capability, the best technology to be available. We're working very closely with Microsoft on the delivery of these solutions, but not only with them. And this is really groundbreaking in terms of the ability of what can be done, where it can be done, how it can be done. So it's a phenomenal team who's been working about it in Benivo, but it's not just the AI, it's the whole infrastructure that had to be supported. So it's everyone who operate there. We are moving, and becoming an AI native company, and that means that every piece of information is being analyzed, insights are extracted from that. And what we want to do is now to give those tools also to our clients so they can make sure that they are staying ahead of the game and making mobility strategic. Because at this time, we know the pressure on headcount, we know the pressure on show us cost savings. We want to give mobility teams the tools to shine internally because they deserve it after all the hard work they've been doing.
Absolutely. So this is going to be something that mobility teams can use, and this is going to be rolled out to presumably all Benivo clients and to anybody who wants to be a Benivo client. And I'm guessing as well, it can be fairly easy to use. This is not something where people are going to have masses of training or something. This is going to be very, very intuitive.
Indeed. All right, I know we have a big show, right? With
so we're gonna move on now. We are very excited. Julia Onslow-Cole cannot be with us, but we're very excited. We have Shweb Mukit from Fragomen for an immigration update. So everybody, you know how it works. If you like AI, if you like mobility, if you like mobility intelligence too, if you like the show, and especially if you like Shweb, who's coming on next, hit the heart button, hit the like button, and hit the applause button. Hey, Shweb, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Brian. Well, it's good to be back.
Cool. So tell us, what are you going to be talking about today?
Well, today, Brian, I thought I'd spend my kind of allocation of minutes speaking about some major immigration developments which are unfolding in the UK between now and the next 6 months. And although I'll be speaking specifically about what's happening in the UK, from my point of view and Fragomen's point of view, of course, we have a very large global footprint. We can see that what is happening in the UK is really resonating in terms of other jurisdictions. How are governments, in fact, reconciling the fundamental question that they deal with when it comes to immigration? The imperative of immigration contrasted to the political pressure to reduce numbers of migrants. And this is a kind of perennial problem that goes through generations, but UK is going through a live experience of how it is itself configuring the answer to that conflicting kind of question. So in terms of actual developments over the next now and the next 6 months, there's 7 areas. And for warning, I know I've got 4 minutes, so I'm going to whistle through them. The first, of course, is targeting talent measures. I mean, what we're seeing increasingly in the UK is the government focusing on providing some facility or benefit to particular narrow cohorts, which they regard as being particularly important to, for example, industrial strategy or, in fact, overall growth agendas. That targeting, of course, is consistent with the idea that overall they cannot be over liberal and over generous across the board. So we've got very specific examples. In the UK, only last week, the government announced 2 particular measures. One is this scheme to reimburse visa fees for particular defined scale-ups, and also separately to provide effectively a concierge service for businesses trying to move to the UK to make life easier for them. So that's a very narrow, targeted kind of focus area. It follows on from what the Chancellor said in Davos at the beginning of the year. I don't know if everyone remembers, but she was obviously making announcements about trying to make sure the UK is attractive. And part of that, of course, involves a bit more flexibility on mobility programs and cost of mobility, but as I said, to narrow cohorts. The second thing we've got to look out for in July, which is connected to this theme, is the Migration Advisory Committee, of course, which is the government's independent advisor on migration policy. it is about to, we're told, launch its review of the temporary shortage list. That is to say, the list that operates in the UK that sets out those occupations below degree level that are still able to be accessed through the immigration system. You will all remember, I think, that the UK has moved to a system where the paradigm level of qualification through which immigration is possible is above degree level qualifications. The TSL, the temporary shortage, is a narrow cohort of occupations that are, again, relevant to the industrial strategy, are in shortage. But connected to this point I'm making, the condition of being on TSL is that the sector has to have a training plan to ensure that the local population is trained up. So again, this is about the balancing of the imperative of leading particular cohorts, but of course the wider political imperative to placate those who are concerned that the domestic market is being reduced. And this is a theme that we say goes across the board. The third thing we need to look out for in the next 0 to 6 months is the government's response to the max recommendations on salary thresholds. Of course, salary thresholds are very important for businesses. They determine what they are required to pay those that they are moving from one jurisdiction to the other. The MAC has said, look, the current thresholds are a bit too aggressive. They, in fact, are counterproductive. They mean that you're, in fact, excluding cohorts, which are net contributors, and in fact, they may be turning away. So in your yearning to reduce numbers, you've also thrown the baby out with the bathwater, if you like, and you've kind of restricted these occupations. We recommend that you, in fact, effectively reduce salary thresholds, even for high-skilled workers. And that, of course, again, is a balance between economic imperative, knowing that actually these cohorts are contributors, are important for innovation, entrepreneurship, and all kinds of things. But of course, as a number, one has to be careful that they don't exceed the expectations, sensibilities of the polity. So we're expecting that in the next couple of months. The other thing we want to look for, the big ticket item, of course, is settlement reform. I think the last time I came here, or one of the occasions I came here last, I spoke about the UK trying to double the period it takes for people to settle once they arrive here and become permanent. They want to effectively double the period. Now, that is a very political hot potato. That may have been influenced by the politics of the centre-right parties rising and their views about who should be allowed to stay. But again, this carries implications. There's lots of data now saying, look, you can reduce numbers, you can make it more difficult for people to settle, but you're also affecting the constitution of people who decide to come here. And they include very eminent, very skillful, very interesting people. And to deny these kind of cohorts entry, you're really doing a disservice to your overall economy. So again, this is about balancing that. That, of course, is also complemented by a bit more control levers. We've got increase in compliance. I'm interested to hear what IM2 is going to do, because all of this is going to be important to all of this, because compliance now is much broader. It's not just about have you got a ticket and have you reserved your seat. It is actually much more, have you complied with your tax obligations, your employment obligations. All of these worlds are merging. So this idea, this need to be actually the center of the information data center rather than in the abstract, looking at things tangentially one by one. Those days are, I'm afraid, dead. The UK, of course, is expanding its right to work scheme in October, we think, and that will broaden the cohorts that are subject to right to work checks from the normal current paradigm, employer-employee relationship or sponsored work relationship. The other thing, of course, is a big ticket in the UK is Europe. Don't forget, this is the 10th anniversary year of the referendum by which we left the European Union. Everybody who's reading or looking at UK newspapers will see that there is an increasing turning of the corner on that debate, particularly in the context of economic imperatives. The idea that Brexit is
youth mobility as well, isn't it?
Well, youth mobility, interestingly, has been put as a centerpiece of the opening gambit, if you like, of negotiations between the parties. If they get that right, that is a segue for other negotiations in other areas. So interestingly, migration is in the center of gravity in these matters. And you've seen various machinations, in the Labour Party, the current government, where the kind of the contenders, the potential contenders for a challenge to the Prime Minister are already raising the idea of a bit more than just aligning ourselves with the European Union again, but in fact rejoining it. But again, that's a very long debate. We've got EU summit happening in July. As you pointed out, there is some talk about the youth mobility. We'll see all of that flesh out. Again, the balance between economic imperative and actually immigration constraints. So youth mobility is a problem because it means it's a synonym for or euphemism, seen as a euphemism for free movement, and that of course was the big Achilles heel that led to Brexit in the first place. The really interesting stuff for me, again, if anybody's interested in politics generally, is a movement in the leadership of parties. Because I think 2024 was the year of elections. We had lots of talk about, how we were watching out for the changes in government. We thought, elections would bring stability. What is happening in the UK shows that actually, even after elections, and even where a party has a big majority, you can have very quick instability fairly quickly. So tomorrow we have the infamous by-election in Macclesfield, by which we have an heir apparent again, a lord from the north trying to become an MP, Andy Burnham, and as far as everybody is concerned, that is a route for him to challenge Keir Starmer, and that could lead to all kinds of policy changes. So the UK,
I think that's right. So I think there's big changes afoot, is what we're saying. We're running a bit out of time, so I'll move on. But I think there's big changes coming afoot. It's actually, for those outside the UK, to say that tomorrow will be a pivotal day for the UK, because it may end up as being the starting gun on what might be a new prime minister for the UK, and who knows what will change there. So and also say there seems to be a move towards a slightly warmer relationship with the EU. So lots of changes there. So we're going to move on now. I'm so excited. We have backstage Salem Barakat and Tina Popa, and they're from, Tina's from Benivo, Salem's from Finn. So we're going to be talking about what they are doing with their policy, with their program, and it's really, really exciting use of technology. So everybody, how it works is we say goodbye to Schwab and we say welcome to the stage, firstly with Salem and later with Tina. Please hit the heart button, hit the like button, and hit the applause button. Hey Salem, how you doing?
Oh, all good, and you?
Yeah, it's really good. It's good to be here, and it's good to have you on the show. And I really want to let the audience get to know you and know about your company, and then we'll dive in a bit about some of the stuff you're doing with your program and your technology. But let's just start on the personal level, Salem, because people come into mobility through all sorts of unusual ways. And I think your way is actually quite an interesting way. How did you get into mobility? Tell us your backstory.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first, thanks for having me here. I'm super excited to be on the show. I've watched it a couple of times, so it's a bit of a full circle to be speaking here. A bit about how I landed in mobility. I mean, I grew up an immigrant, and my parents used to work through a lot of visa applications, whether it was for Schengen visas or tourist visas, and I always, saw them filling out the forms. And then from there, I moved to Ireland in 2017, where I had to do my own, visa application. And I studied law at Trinity, where I really, really enjoyed immigration and refugee law. Then fast forward, I had a role at Fragaman, where I realized there's a whole world out there supporting with immigration. There's functions, teams who are doing, carrying all this large work of paperwork and, processes and dealing with, government bodies, submitting applications. From there, I worked as an Irish immigration consultant. Then I had a short stint with our Luxembourg team, where I work on Luxembourgish immigration. And then I worked on the program management team, where I essentially help, our corporate clients set up their immigration programs or run their immigration programs. Then from there, I moved over to Finn. I took over from my amazing manager who set up a great program, Rebecca Kelly, where I now manage the Global Mobility program here.
If you're out there, Rebecca, Rebecca's been on the show before. Shout out to Rebecca and we wish you all the best. But anyway, so you've taken over from Rebecca while she's away at the moment.
Yeah.
And so tell us a bit about, actually I find it interesting because people come into mobility all sorts of different ways, but basically you came into it almost like it was in your blood that, from fairly young age, you were helping your parents do their visa application. So it wasn't an academic thing for you. It was
No.
very real,
Yeah.
and down in the dust, actually sort of filling out the forms for your mum and dad, which is that's such
not at all. I mean, even my own visa application, like it was kind of, I realized, you could make a living out of this, and there's a whole world out there, and I realized, why not give it a shot? And here I am, maybe 5 or 6 years later, still in the industry.
Yeah, and you moved on your own, didn't you, at the age of 18?
Yes, moved on my own, age 18. Had to figure out, how to do residency permits for myself, which aren't entirely difficult, but just managing that all on your own, and then realizing I could be that person who helps people move across the world. I think moving is always very, very personal, and can be very, very scary.
It's not just about the visa. Obviously, it was about getting yourself accommodation, and
exactly.
Whether it was a cell phone or a sort of a social life or
bank account, all those things. So I realized I could be that person, who could set it up for other people, whether they're moving at the age of 18 or 50 with 4 kids, so it's always a very daunting experience regardless of where you are in life. And I realized I could be that person who can support, and something I find very rewarding, to be honest.
That's so cool. And then tell us about the company, Finn, because it may be one of the most well-known companies people have never heard of as well, because I think we all use Finn's products. But so tell us a bit about what Finn does.
For sure. So we actually changed the name of our company just over a month ago to Finn. Before that, we were called Intercom. And for those who don't know what Intercom is, Intercom was a customer communications and a customer service software company. Our AI agent is called Finn, and obviously with the rise of AI and the shift in the industry, the business thought it would be a good idea to change the name of the company to Finn. So Finn, as I said, is our AI powered customer service agent. It helps resolve queries without the introduction of a human agent, essentially. So it essentially will resolve all your customer issues. So that little bot when you log onto a website where you can ask it questions, and most of the time it doesn't work. Ours works most of the time and doesn't need a human agent. So
we all know those bots, and they're incredibly useful.
Yeah.
When they work, and other times, but they're amazing. They're amazing, those bots. So
yeah.
And how many companies have now use your software?
We're with over 30,000 customers.
Wow.
and growing. So it's only continuing to grow from here, and I think it's a testament to how strong and how helpful the AI customer service agent is.
Yeah, and I'm sure, like everything else, that's only going to get better and better, and it's going to move into whatever avatars and all sorts of real stuff. It's, and the way the world is changing, it's just extraordinary. So so we all know now a bit about who Finn is. Tell us a bit about the size of the company in terms of how many sort of people are you moving a year, and give us an idea of how many people you are touching within your.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're right now over just 1,200 employees. We operate in 5 countries, so the UK, US, Australia, Ireland, and Germany. With recently, our German population growing over there, so that's been the main focus throughout the year. In terms of moves, I mean, to give you the number for last year, we're talking new hires, transfers, minus business visas. We're talking about 150 cases. And this year we're just halfway through the year, and we're already over that number at about 160. So when it comes to business visas, random immigration queries, last minute assignments, that number definitely grows to way larger than that.
Yeah, and tell us a bit about the philosophy that you have, that the way you focus on talent, and especially how you support best-in-class employees.
Definitely. I think there's a whole focus in the company on hiring the best talent and making sure our talent has the best possible experience. I mean, one of our values is customer obsessed, and we do try to translate that into our internal work as well. Hence, why I think our global mobility program, and more specifically our relocation program, is very generous and very pragmatic when it comes to employees relocating.
Yeah. Okay. And tell us a bit about what your program looks like, because I know that, in fact, a bit like we had Karen from Indeed on last week, who had a managed budget program, and with her it's about moving out, employee flexibility, but at the same time managing costs. But tell us a bit about your philosophy of your program.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we also do have a managed budget, and for me, I think the most important thing is to give the employee the best experience, possible, and try to support them in any way they can, in any way they need. Sorry, and any way that we can. So what that means really is to try to empower them as much as possible. I mean, I said earlier on in the during the show that I think it's quite, moving is a very vulnerable place to be in, especially moving, across countries, whether it's from super close from Germany to Ireland or India to Ireland. It's always a very personal and can be a very exhausting experience. So we want to make sure that we're providing, to our employees the most flexibility and the most seamless experience when it comes to relocation. The way we do that is we, believe that there are core aspects to relocation, and then there's flexible aspects to relocation where the managed budget comes in. So when it comes to core, we always, will provide temporary accommodation, we'll provide flights to the location and tax advice. And then from there, we have our managed budget, or the flex budget, as we call it as well, which is calculated based on, seniority, family size, the place you're moving from to, and then from there, that's their managed budget. And really, I like to call the managed budget play money. So you use it towards whatever would make your life easier moving to your new location, within reason, of course. So we're very, open, to help it, to taking on employee suggestions of what's needed. But I think that gives, the employee the power to manage their own relocation and take what they need from that budget, because there's nothing worse than giving them, services, and then they're saying we don't need half of these services, and they're left with nothing really.
Yeah. But how do you decide who gets what sort of level of budget? I mean, how do you work out? Is there like a matrix that you use?
Yeah. So it's based on, seniority, your family size, and the location you're moving from and to. So, it really, just depends on those three factors. And we have our internal matrix, which we actually worked with Benivo to set up. And then from there, it ranges all the way from 0 to 20,000. So anywhere in between those, we have different packages. But then also one thing I want to note is that we always, pivot, and will include things, that we think are suitable for a certain, relocation or a transfer. So we've had an instance where we're moving someone for an assignment to Germany, and typically our settling in services are not part of the package. Of course, we pivoted there and we made that a core element. So while we have our structure in place, we're always pivoting, given how fast everything's moving and business needs change.
Okay, so I mean, you've mentioned Benivo, and you are, of course, a Benivo client, and thank you very much on behalf of everybody at Benivo for being such a great client. And we've got waiting very patiently backstage the amazing Tina Popa from Benivo. So I'm just going to get Tina to join us too. So Tina, hi, and welcome back to the show. So you work very closely with Salem.
Yeah, I think I'm basically another extension of his team, since he's a one mobility person in Finn at the moment.
Actually, well, that's a really interesting point. So you're managing all this program just by yourself, with the support of obviously Benivo and technology platform.
Exactly, yeah, which has been Tina's been amazing, at making my life so much easier. And I'm sure she'll speak more about that during the show.
Okay, we've talked about this question of the core bit and the managed bit and the flexibility that it gives. But you said that there can be a problem sometimes when, there's certain things that people maybe can't use or don't want to use. What's your philosophy on cashing out? 'Cause this is always an interesting debate. Do you let people cash out, or where are you on that?
So we don't let people cash out, actually. So I really believe we have a strong relocation program, and we're quite generous with our policy. I think the whole spirit of a relocation program is, stating the obvious here, help you relocate you seamlessly. That's essentially the whole point. And I think when you present the option of cash to people, they will most likely take the cash and not use it towards their, relocation package. So while we, we do offer a very strong package of, everything they need, and that we're open with the services that we provide. We're always open, to changing, to adding on services or benefits that they can avail of. But cashing out is just not in that. We would prefer that they use that towards their, relocation. We're always working with Tina and the team, to explore new ways and what we can add in terms of, benefits to the platform.
Okay, that's it. Yeah,
that.
You come in, Tina.
Yeah, I was going to say I support that, because there's lots of studies going around. A recent one at Ernst & Young showed that assignees who had a managed budget and allowed cash out services actually showed higher rates of failure in their relocation, because you incentivize the assignee to take the cash and actually shortfall themselves in actually getting the services that they need to settle, whilst those who actually had the services that they needed and used the budget correctly settled in. They were far more successful in their roles. They reduced their stress. By giving them that incentive of cashing out, you've actually created a structure where you're encouraging the employee to take the cash compared to the service.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting debate. I mean, we had Karen on the show last week, and they do allow cash out, but the way they do it, from what she was telling us last week, is you can cash out but not in full. You don't get the same value, so they gain share a bit on that. But I think it's a fascinating debate, and I know it's one that can be argued both ways. But I really like what you're saying, that what you do is, instead of letting people cash out, you offer additional perks, if you like, that might be attractive to them to make the experience better. And I think we'll get onto that in a bit. We'll talk about some of those perks that you add in.
Definitely. And then on top of benefits as well, I think one thing I want to add, Tina and I worked on, is expenses as well. Well, even if it's not within the benefits, we're happy to expense certain things. So that I think shows how open we are with the relocation program. So whether they're not technically cashing it out, but we're open to expensing it as opposed to adding it as a benefit, I suppose.
Yeah. So I think, Tina, it's probably about time to actually look at the platform and just show how this works. And I should say that for confidentiality and data reasons, this is actually not the actual Fin platform. This is if you like, a sanitized version of it that we can show without giving away any personal data. So let's just, I'll just share your screen. So just tell us, Tina, just tell us exactly how employees do navigate these service selections, and let's have a little bit of a demo for a few moments.
Yeah, so this side of the platform is actually the managed side of the platform, the management platform, which Salem actually operates in. Again, this is the demo side of us. So Salem would create an employee profile. He would select that it's a managed budget, and then obviously based on the data that he's selected, the budget is automatically assigned. So we've got a director plus going here. So he's got a pretty good managed budget coming through. Now, from there, they would navigate and actually have core services that are already being initiated. So if you could see here, if I click on initiated, some of the core offerings in this demo, you could see they've got policy consultation, but like Fin, Salem mentioned for Fin, they have temporary accommodation, they have tax briefing, you have flights. That's all done through the Benivo platform. Now, on the pending side, what you can see is that we have an array of services here that is actually optional for the employee. You could see that it states available for the employee selection. And then you could also see the lovely budget around here. That budget is changeable. It's completely flexible. So if there was a conversation prior to them initiating the services and they actually negotiated a £15,000 budget, Salem could go in and change that budget on the platform before inviting the employee to the platform. So just a quick review that it's lots of services. We can tailor these services based on the services from Benivo supply partners, or if they're client preferred vendors as well. Now, from there, I'm just going to pivot over to the employee platform. This is the employee platform. I've specifically went into the benefits section.
So this is what the employee is seeing when they've been set up by Salem and they're making their choices.
Yeah, we've got a lovely menu here where the employee can go into destination and actually educate themselves about the location that they're going into. It hosts before they select benefits. They could also see things like the expense management tool, community, where they can see offerings of services that other expats have also utilized, and it gives them like a star rating, which I think is brilliant. But if we focus just on the managed budget side, the services, an employee can go in and actually look at all the services. Now, please note, in this demo, you can see like a 1-day home search and there's a cash amount to that service. We could actually add 2-day, 3-day. We could add multiple vendors to that to that platform as well. So in the host location, you can have 3 to 4 vendors operating the same service. And the employee has the option to select a vendor that they feel comfortable with or they want to proceed with. Now, if I click on home search, for instance, what that will do is it's going to go into the home search page and it's going to ask the employee to fill out, what are you looking for? Is it an apartment? Is it 2-bedroom? It builds like a little profile for the vendor to actually look at. And when they click submit the benefit or select the benefit, that vendor has kind of a small profile about what that employee is looking for alongside their personal data from the platform. So it's pushing all that information to the vendor, who they are, where they're going to and from, and then a bit of information about what they want. The other side of it is they get the ratings from Benivo as well about that vendor. We don't hide that. It's very open. It's very honest.
I mean, this is like sort of TripAdvisor or something, isn't it? So you can see the reviews. And because to me, the first question that any employee who's moving asks is, what do other people like me do?
Yeah, exactly.
Other people in my situation. And what we always want to know is, if you made a choice, actually, were they any good? And it's not just were they any good to the general publication, but what about people like me in the same organization? How are they rated? So here we can see, one vendor might be 5-star rated, if we take that one there. I mean, and you get comments in there as well. So it's a really useful way. And it's the way people expect to run their own lives, when they're booking their own holiday or hotel or something personally. It's what we all do. So we brought that into the corporate relocation world.
Yeah, and the other side of it is that we also outline if they're one of Benivo's supply partners. Now, Finn utilized Benivo as a supply partner, so we highlight to them that yes, they are a vetted vendor for Benivo, and if they did run into any issues or they needed support, our supply team were at the back with our support team straight away assisting these assignees as well. So whilst it is a managed budget approach, there is support in the background still regarding these vendors. So if I just quickly go back and say select vendors. So previously I actually selected a vendor. So if I go on tracked benefits here, you could see that I selected a household goods. And what I did is I went out for quotation. So what I'm waiting for now is I've submitted my little query. I've filled out the key information. I'm shipping, 3 beds, a couch. And I've sent that over to a household goods vendor, and I'm waiting for that vendor to come back and give me a quotation. Real life information coming back to the employee about the cost, so they can make an informed decision about if they want to proceed with that household goods shipment or not. Now, our platform can also allow that assignee to go for multiple vendor costs, so multiple household goods shipment quotations, giving them full control about which vendor they want to use and which quotation they feel comfortable utilizing based on the allowance that they have. So it really gives a full picture of keeping the assignee in control. But what I like about it the most, it's actually also showing the assignee how much your company is investing in you to relocate. A lot of the time in traditional assignments, you don't see that. That's like what Salem said. Lots of benefits are given, but they don't really need it. So what is the benefit for them if they don't see the cost of it as well?
Okay, we'll come back to that in a moment, but let me just ask Salem, from your perspective, how are you finding that? And what's the employee reaction?
Yeah, employee reaction is great. They find it super, super helpful. And then also for me, I think, as you said, I'm a one-person mobility team here at Finn. So there are, we have a lot of high volume of cases and things can get, lost very quickly. And the best thing for me about this is that I don't have to be involved in every single move. And I don't have to, initiate services for every single, employee. So when they log onto the platform and they have a list of benefits that are listed there for them, they can manage all of that on their own. Of course, I do have a conversation with them before, I set them up on Benivo. I explain to them how it works. But that for me is the best part, that they're able to, manage their communications with their vendors and can loop me in whenever needed if there's an escalation or if something's not going right, which rarely happens. And Tina will always step in to support as well with that. Employees love it. They think it's super intuitive. If there's any queries or issues to resolve, they're resolved very quickly by the support teams, whether it's temporary accommodation, household, shipping goods. So it's been a very, very positive experience, and it gives sort of, as Tina said, the employee, that experience of seeing how much we're investing in them when it comes to their relocation, because oftentimes they think it's not super admin heavy or not super expensive, whereas we are investing a lot of employees and we want to make sure that they're having that best experience, so it really gives them that first-hand experience of their relocation move.
Yeah, because I suppose traditionally the way something like finding housing would be handled, or another service, is you would be telling them who the supplier is. They would be having communications, emails would be going backwards and forward. You'd probably be copied in. Any escalations would go through to you. And here, you don't have to know about it because it's going through a supplier, unless there is an issue and there is something that there's an escalation of some sort. But they are actually in charge. And also, quite often, people sort of sometimes resent the fact that they were made to go with one particular supplier and they decide they didn't particularly like that supplier and their friend went with a different supplier. But here, actually, there can be a choice. I mean, typically, Tina, in how many suppliers might there be on a quotation?
We typically stay within the 2 to 3 range for each host location, just giving them the options. Now, if you gave me 3 options and I was moving internationally and I couldn't pick one of them, then there is the option of going out. They could go to Salem and say, actually, I'm going to do my own thing. And then that would be an exception outside of policy and it's up to Salem. But a majority of the time, Salem says you've actually got quite a few vetted vendors through a partner. We recommend that you utilize them instead of using a random person that you don't know.
Yeah. And if we go, sorry, Salem, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah, we do give that freedom to our, employees, where we say, if for some reason, you're not happy with the vendors on the platform, you can use, someone that a friend recommended or a family member recommended, but we always do advise for them to go through the platform because, as Tina said, they're vetted by you guys, and they work perfectly when it comes to. And also, additionally to that, they don't have to pay out of pocket; they can just go through the platform because that's where the money is already loaded up.
Okay, and let's just go back to the demo, Tina. I'll just bring that back on stage if I may. Now, I know that people can actually raise questions, and I think there's that an icon in the bottom. Yeah, so tell us a bit about how that all works.
Yeah, so we have this lovely little chat bot here, and they can ask a question, they could raise and escalate an issue. All this does is basically it feeds information back to the management platform, but also to our support team. So if I was an assignee and I had a question, I could actually ask this bot a question and it could give me feedback about my policy. So if I said, how many temporary accommodation days does the policy allow? The bot could actually answer that through an AI agent, and it'll say, as per your policy, 30 days. If I have an escalation, though, I could actually communicate with Salem directly through the platform, and it would raise something called a Benivo ticket, which I can show you here. So if I just log on here, you can see Benivo tickets are sitting here. And if they raised an exception or an escalation, it actually would create a ticket for Salem to review. That ticket is tied to that employee, so it sits under the employee profile. But what's important about this is that it's building data, it's building information about what the issue is. And we could utilize that data to either improve a policy. So for instance, we actually said, and we had the one about mileage, didn't we, recently? An assignee wanted to expense mileage because they drove instead of flying, and that's not currently within the FIN allowance. And they raised it, and we had a conversation about it. And within 24 hours, we implemented it on the platform to be part of their expense categories. So it's quite quick. It's real-time information being fed to Salem in real time, and we can actually make decisions quite quickly with Salem and FIN to make those changes on the platform.
So these are exceptions that an employee comes back and says they want something different. Maybe they don't understand us. They want something different. They want, in that case, it was mileage. It might be something else they want. So they raise a ticket, and that goes through to Salem, and then, and it might be maybe a completely different service. Maybe they want, I don't know, language training, and you're not offering language training in that destination, or whatever it might be. And then, how quickly can Benivo then put that onto the platform?
So if it was something that they needed that wasn't currently implemented, what we would do is actually do it strategically. So we would look at implementing it for the next week or so. But if that assignee still needed that service, our Benivo supply partners are right there in the background, and we could still initiate services and all keep that data within the employee platform, have invoices from that vendor slotted into that employee platform as well. So they could still be supported through our vendors. And then we would implement that service onto the platform for future cases.
Okay. And we talked earlier about the fact that people can't cash out, but they might have funds left over, and that we've got out-of-the-box innovative solutions. Can you tell us a bit about some of the solutions that we've used in practice to enhance the employee experience?
Yeah, so I love speaking to Salem about this, as he knows. So we have conversations with Finn because they are really encouraging the employees to utilize their whole budget. And what we saw consistently is that they will do like household goods and temporary accommodation, home search, and they might have a bit of funds left over. So Salem came up to us and said, how can we utilize that? And fantastically, Benivo has Benivo vouchers, and they are all host-based vouchers that an assignee can use in, like, say, United Kingdom. You can do like IKEA vouchers, you can do cinema vouchers, things that could actually help the assignee just set up in the new location so it could feel like home. So we've introduced that to Finn, and it's going to be live shortly, but it just gives the assignee the ability to utilize those vouchers. So they pay like 100 and it gives them a percentage back. So it's an incentive. In addition, something that we're looking at as well is, can the assignee utilize some of their budget to do some fun stuff in their new host location? So it could be like a new experience for them, or even bring a family member to come and see them in the host location so they could just feel a bit of home whilst they're in their new location. Anything that can help them just settle is kind of the goal for Finn. And that's where Benivo has the complete flexibility of adding these services to the platform and working alongside them.
So we've talked a lot about the employee side, setting the employee up, but obviously the other side of it is the whole management platform.
Yeah.
We've only got about 7 or 8 minutes left, so why don't we just focus a bit on the management side?
Mm-hmm.
So can I share your screen now? Is that ready for me to share?
Yeah, by all means.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about the management side here of how we manage and the data that we can get.
Yeah, so everything that we do at Benivo is basically real-time data. If somebody completes a service, that service gives a milestone back to Salem, and he could actually see high-level information about that relocation. But if we talk about it from data and reporting, Salem, I'm going to call you out here because I know this is the one report you love, so I do apologize. Salem loves this payroll report. And the reason being is that it can give him insights into the types of services that these employees have taken, the amount, and Benivo can also gross up some of the services based on the taxation rights of that country. So recently we did a gross up of school, I think it was the schooling search for the UK because it became a taxable benefit. And I could let Salem tell you why he loves this report so much.
I mean, for me, it's as you can see, it's a line by line item of everything an employee used, and it really just helps us, first of all, calculate how much each employee is spending and split that, into departments and then budget for the next year as well. But also, as Tina said, we can also see what employees are not using. So why are they only using such a little amount? And that's where, we've started having conversations about adding more fun stuff to the platform, vouchers, being able to bring a family member over, using that budget for that. So, it's super, super helpful for us to just, understand where the money is going and what are they using it on. Like I remember there was one employee who used a lot of their budget on meals while traveling. Some people use it on transport. Someone used it mainly on furniture. So it's just quite interesting to see where is that money going, and it will help us make better decisions when it comes to writing our policy and advising the business on how to change the program if needed.
Yeah, and you could actually do it on an employee level. So Salem can pick an employee and just find, as you could see here, through the filters, he could select it from an employee level. And we could also create it as payroll instruction report. So that report can be fed through to your payroll teams as well. So there's lots of ways to optimize the platform to seamlessly put automation in and remove admin from so many departments.
Wow, I mean, it's so impressive. I'll just put that backstage again, because I want to as we begin to get to the end of the show, there's one area that I wanted to get into, which is that, I mean, you mentioned, Salem, that, you know, you are a department of one, and that, you know, you use Benivo extensively to give you support. And I know one of the things that Tina and Salem, you've worked on very closely, is what I'd call redefining that whole sort of relationship between client and supplier, vendor, call it what you will. And I suppose the question I'd ask you, Salem, is that, you know, you said that your partnership with Benivo operates as a genuine extension of your global mobility team, rather than as, if you like, a standard vendor relationship. What advice would you give to other mobility leaders who want to move away from a rigid transactional vendor contracts towards some sort of what I think you call a co-creative relationship?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, certainly totally agree with that it feels like a genuine extension. And then the reason for that is because, you know, I think Tina and Benivo understand their business objective, you know, to the point. They know how fast we're moving, what our priorities are in terms of hiring talent. And, you know, she just really understands the core of our mission as a company. And on top of that, she's, you know, always there to help whenever there's, you know, an escalation or, you know, there's noise coming from somewhere. So from that aspect, it really does feel like a genuine relationship. In terms of, you know, advice for mobility leaders to move towards, you know, a platform such as that, it just gives the employees so much more power over their own relocation journey. You know, I can offload so much of the, you know, relocation element of the program to Benivo, to Tina, and, you know, she can take that onwards and help me, you know, make that program even stronger, because she has insights that I don't have sometimes that could be really beneficial in me helping my design the program and implementing, you know, new policies. So that was, I think, go into it with an open mind, you know, ask for the demo, understand, you know, how Benivo works, because it really does help, you know, support the overall operations of our, you know, relocation program. I think without you guys, things would be very difficult.
And I think I should say that, you know, we've talked about, you know, you using supply chain partners that are part of the Benivo trusted network, but equally I know if companies have their own supply chain partners, then they can be onboarded onto the system. That's correct, isn't it, Tina?
That's correct, yeah. And a lot of the time we probably already work with them because of our vetted partners are, you know, we use quite a few of the big ones. So please do come and ask, because majority of the time we already have a contract with them.
Yeah, I mean, it's super exciting, and this is just the beginning. There's various features we haven't spoken about here. We haven't spoken about cost estimates. We haven't spoken a lot about the mobility intelligence that's there. There's so much there. And then, of course, there's all the, getting back to the beginning of the show, there's all the mobility intelligence 2, MI2, that's going to come out in about 3 or 4 weeks' time as we start rolling that out. So there's loads of exciting stuff there. And this technology is so cool. I think I'm sure it's market leading, but it ain't nothing compared to what it's going to be. The level of change in this industry is dramatic. And indeed, Salem, within Fin itself, I mean, you know, you guys are at the absolute forefront of, you know, bringing new technology. The way your company pivoted to AI is simply outstanding, and the partnership that Benivo has with Fin is something that, you know, we are very grateful to, and we love working with you. We are, however, pretty much getting towards the end of the time. So what I am going to do is I'm going to bring Schweb back onto our stage. I'm going to bring our wonderful producer Tally back onto the stage. And Tally, maybe just before we end up, you can tell us a little bit about what the show is going to be next week.
Oh, next week. Yeah. So next week I'm going to be there, which is really exciting for me. Yeah. So we're going to kind of wrap up the season that we had. We had a very intensive season. So we're going to have Julia and Julie to talk about immigration and tax in the perspective of the whole season. We're going to have Lori and Meredith, who took over for you, Brian, when you were not here. Lori will talk about AI and what was going on over the last few months. So there's a lot to cover there. And Meredith was talking about global mobility updates during this season. She will join also to wrap up that. And then we're moving to me to give you a bit of a glimpse to behind the scene and how it was to produce the show this season. And maybe I'll share with you some kind of some life stories from my life, my own life. So we'll see.
Trust me, everybody, Tally's life story and the stuff that she got up to, you could write a book about it, Tally.
Could I?
More on that next week. Meanwhile, everybody,
everybody, go now to LinkedIn and let us know what is your favorite sequel. Click like, share, reshare, comment. We want to know what's your favorite sequel, because mine is right up there, MI2.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, we have to say goodbye. Thank you so much to Salem. Thank you so much to Shweb. Thank you to Tina. And a special thank you to and we've got Nitsan back just as we say goodbye. So Nitsan, we're just saying goodbye, and thank you so much for sharing all about MI2. Everybody have a great week, and we will see you again this time next week. And watch out for more information on MI2 as we gradually tell you just a little bit more about the process of the reveal next month. Take care, everybody, and have a great week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.